Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Okay, my friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. It's Wednesday. It's the Wednesday show. Dr. Maya Bowen is out of sight, out of Wi-Fi reach, but always ever present. No need for Wi-Fi for the one and only Luis Delgado. Dr. Delgado.
Good morning, Stan, and good morning to all our listeners and our viewers. Let's have an incredible day today. Let's make the most out of our day. And, just live your best life and take care of your health, my family. So, yes, good morning to all.
Talk champion in the house, Dr. Luis Delgado. You had a good weekend?
Stan, incredible weekend. I got some time, I spent some time with my grandkids. I went out to Coach Park and listened to some great music out there. The brothers and the sisters always get together out there and play live music, so it was very nice. It brought me back to my high school and those years when we used to spend a lot of time down there playing ball and stuff, seeing some people I hadn't seen in a long time, and it's always good. It was always a good time.
So, Cole Park. Now, when you live music like this is like real from the community live music. This is not like imported.
No. These are just community musicians that get together, and sometimes they have some special guests that come by. Sometimes some pros will show up and just jam with them, and that I think that's pretty common with musicians, Stan. I remember going to the 880 back on Maple.
Old school.
Yeah, and they have a band, and then some stellar would show up, man, and it was always incredible when that happened,
Yeah, Hartford was like a hotbed of jazz. It still to some degree is. I mean, you got the Paul Brown Jazz Series is still going on. It's just like 36 years, 37 years.
And it's incredible. I was just at a jazz concert where you filmed some stuff, but I went there Saturday and Sunday, man, and it was just incredible for our city to host something like that. So a shout out to all the organizers and all the people involved. They did an incredible job. They had vendors, man, that lined the street, and it was just, for me, it was very nice to see our people out there enjoying themselves and showing their wares, the crafts and the all the things that were on sale they were all beautiful, man. It was nice to see our people out there doing so well,
As quietly as it is kept, the Greater Hartford Festival Jazz really is a Hartford. It's really Hartford centric. I mean, it's like a big family reunion.
It is.
There's a
man.
lot of
Yes.
Hartford in there.
Yeah, a lot of Hartford people from
a lot of Hartford.
Many generations, Stan.
Yeah.
Many
absolutely.
generations. I've seen some grandparents, parents, and their kids, and the great grandkids out there. So it is a very nice time, and it's also it's got quite a reputation for being, one of the nicest events in the New England, as far as jazz activities go. Because, like you said, it has sustainability. It's been going for 36 years.
Great time. Now, the thing that happens during the weekend, I use the word indigenous in a sense of Hartford people.
Yes.
Hartford people.
Yes.
Not in the true indigenous sense, but indigenous to Hartford. So, on the weekends down at Cole Park, music that's people oriented
Absolutely.
So if I come down and tape, because I don't have anything, like that documented from Hartford.
Oh, Stan, let me inquire into that.
All right, yeah, because
sure
I would like to capture the vibrancy and the electricity of the expression that comes from, because music is so alive in such a language, and the way it's communicated, particularly when it's coming from the artist in such a way that is so genuine, and it's hard to find that if you're not within the community where it's originating.
And you know, I was speaking with a couple of folk that are down there, and they bring quite an array of instruments. They even bring like an electric piano. They have bongos, congas. They have even some, a saxophone. They have quite an array, man. So I was really impressed. I'm like, how did this happen? And they said, we do this every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Not everybody shows up. Like, not all the same musicians show up, but we always have musicians. So some days it could be a lot more elaborate than others, I would say.
But it's organic.
Absolutely. Completely.
Yeah, see, that's the kind of stuff I like to capture. It's off the grid. If you don't know where it's happening,
yes, when
it's happening, it's hard, very, very hard to find. And Hartford has a lot of that kind of stuff going on all over the city. There's a lot of people say, well, there's nothing going on in Hartford. Quite, no. Everything is going on in Hartford. You just don't know where it's happening.
Exactly. And if you're not from here, and if you're not in the community, then you don't know where these things are.
Right.
So yeah. So Stan, I want to jump into some things, man, that are, that have been pressing on my mind kind of over the weekend, man. And the first one is that I understand that there are some young men in the city that have been shooting at other people's wakes. And that's kind of been kept under wraps. And I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned on a lot of different levels. I'm concerned because of how quiet it's been kept. And I understand it's happened a couple times, not once. And so I'm concerned because we haven't heard anything from our illustrious police department. We haven't heard anything from our illustrious leader, lying Lew Brown. And I can call him that because he lied to me. Right.
I don't know what he said. I've heard several people talk about it, even on the 50,001 Flamethrower TIC last week, where they talked about, they alluded to what you mentioned, but they didn't talk about it. And you can't allude to, because until you just mentioned what
a white response.
Until you just mentioned what you did, I would not have made the connection. And people should have been able to know as plainly as you said it when they had their press conference, but they did not.
So here's the thing. And let me clarify my answer when I say that that's a white response. Because we clearly, as black and brown people, understand that we don't have a problem in our community until white folks say it's a problem. So that's why I say it's a white response.
That's interesting.
So now
they declared a problem. So now it's a problem. Well,
what happened with the heroin? We had heroin in our community since the 60s, introduced by the CIA. And it was never a problem. Our children, our families, we lost thousands.
Well, that is very...
Okay, and then heroin wasn't a problem until white kids started dying from it. What happened with the crack epidemic? It wasn't an epidemic until white kids started using it. Well, and that's what I mean by is a white response, right? So until it starts happening to them, it's not going to be a problem. But we need to make it a problem because it's our babies, our children, our families, our communities that are being affected by this kind of non-response. So here's the other thing, though. So for me, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I don't expect white people to do anything about this. But we can't have the same response that they have to our problems. We need to have an action plan. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm concerned that I haven't heard from the Ministerial Alliance. I haven't heard from any other pastors. I haven't heard from the African American Alliance. I haven't heard from the Spanish-speaking folk. Hold on a minute, brother. I haven't heard from the Spanish-speaking folk that know that this is going on. They're pastors in that community. I haven't heard a response from anybody that's in leadership about even having a conversation about this. So you can see where my concern is stand.
That and it's a legitimate concern, obviously. But now I can speak for the African American Alliance. Now, did it occur to you that maybe all of the people you've mentioned are unaware? I mean, in order for people to make a response to such things, and that's why I'm not trying to. Lord knows I ran against the guy. I'm not trying to throw cover for the mayor, because we had talked about this on I think one of I think it must have been Monday program with Jonathan. Not this per se, but about murder and the shootings and the crime in Hartford and the foolishness of any mayor who comes into office saying he can do something about it, because this is the same thing happens every time for every mayor across the city. I mean, around the country, and particularly here in Hartford. But he had a press conference, and in the press conference, he said that this is something that is happening between individuals. Now, Darrell alluded to this way back when he was chief, because the mayor then, Mayor Perez, walked into the police department and called him out, where he said people are a victim of their lifestyle. You remember that? All right. So people were a victim of their lifestyle. So we know this is going on. He alluded to that, but didn't come right out and say it. When you said what you said this morning, it connected the dot. Now, you are much more embedded in the community than all of the people you mentioned. Even to the degree that some of them, and I mean, I'll be highly critical of the Ministerial Alliance. They're a non-factor as far as I'm concerned. So I only say that to say this. You may think that they should know, and they should probably. But what they should know and what they do know are two different things. So until people such as yourself or Reverend Brown or somebody like that comes in and says something, people right now are not connected to the ground, which is why you're so valuable in that you're telling us. But I mean, it's very difficult for people to be engaged and involved in something that they're not aware of.
I completely agree.
That's all I'm saying.
I completely agree. And I was just trying to make a point that our community in different segments, different entities that should be communicating with each other are not doing that. So that was my point. So the other thing that I would add to that particular topic is that I completely don't understand, Stan, how our city is still surviving. We have a completely broken down government. Think about all the stuff that's happened. We have a police chief who's committed crimes, and then he was pardoned by the mayor. We have a police chief who got a vote of no confidence from the rank and file, yet he's still police chief. In any other city, the mayor would have asked him to resign or would have fired him, but not here. So it begs the question about what are they hiding? So now we have a police union who turned down a very, very handsome union contract in today's paper. And It made me feel when I read that article, brother, that we are being held hostage, man, by these unions. I want the men and women to be compensated fairly.
Right.
But in terms of what the city can afford and sustain, because we can't have all the police and the fire and the other unions get all the money for this generation, and then the following generations get nothing. You know what I'm saying? We have to think about tomorrow. And guess what, Stan? Mm-hmm. Some people don't even know that after tomorrow there's another day that comes. So, we have to think. And we cannot allow any kind of union, whether it's the teachers union, the police union, or all of them together, hold our cities hostage. Because the bottom line is this, brother, in terms of this topic. I guarantee you that 80% of the members of all those unions don't live in Hartford. But they eating high off the horse off of Hartford. So they have to work with us. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I'm concerned. So what I would ask our viewers and our listeners today to do is we had an election yesterday, and we have some more elections coming up. I keep saying it every week. We are in the age of the Great Awakening. We don't have to move in ignorance anymore. We have to stop electing people, no matter what their race, their color, their nationality, their sex, their gender, that are completely incompetent and have no interest in our community, our families, and our children. And that's what I would submit to this conversation.
Well, you must have read the article this morning about the police contract.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so that's well, that was Monday night. Now, the African American Alliance has a committee. It's called the Accountability Now Committee. They spoke up about the contract at the council meeting in the public portion. And they have been working with members of council to try to move forward a means by which the contract comes into the public space where there is light shone on the process.
They don't want that.
And not only the process, but also on as much as can be done given the constraints of negotiations with unions, as make it as public as it can be. So this has been going on for some time in terms of what the African American Alliance has been trying to do, in terms of trying to put some light behind that and throw it out there in the public sphere. Absolutely. Because all of the contracts are done in secret. They're all done behind closed doors because of the way union contracts are. But it doesn't need to be done that way.
Right. And we have to ask that they be done because those are public servants.
Spending public dollars.
And they have to be reminded of that.
Right.
Because they forget. So we have to do a better job as a community of holding not just the police department accountable, but these officials that kind of co-sign all that nonsense.
Well,
so
the police department is not sacrosanct, and they don't operate in a vacuum. They work for us.
Well, brother, I beg your pardon.
as do the elected officials that represent us and negotiate on our behalf. Sometimes I think that they're negotiating on behalf of the members of the police force instead of the constituents.
Well, brother, and you stated it correctly, but I think that what you meant to say, and forgive me if I'm correcting you incorrectly, right? But I think what you meant to say is that that's how it's supposed to work. But the police department does operate in a vacuum. And the elected officials do what they want.
Well, that's right. That ultimately,
we just want to be clear about that, Stan.
That's our fault if that's the case.
Well, that's what's happening. So the other thing, that's been pressing on my mind is the superintendent of Hartford Public Schools.
All right.
And I said it before, I was her biggest supporter. And now I am her biggest detractor. It's time for Leslie to go, and I hope that she does it with honor and with dignity and integrity and just bows out gracefully and let another person that the community once again picks for superintendent. Did you hear what I just said, Mayor Bronin and Leslie? Bow out gracefully, and Mayor Bronin, we have a candidate. The community has a candidate. And it's time for Leslie to go.
Those are pretty strong words. Because I mean, you were like one of her you were her biggest champion.
I was. But you know, Stan, everybody runs their course.
That
and
is
just
true.
like politicians need term limits, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we need to have limits on people. She did a great job while she was here, but now she's starting to fall off. She's making the same mistakes that a lot of other people made. We have incredible talent in Hartford, sister.
Mm-hmm.
And you have 4 gone. Okay? You forgot about our people. And you're bringing people in from out of town that don't know our community, don't know our people. They're not attached. And they come in and they operate in a vacuum. You understand? So we have incredible talent in Hartford. And if you and the mayor or any other head of any other agency can't see that, then you can't be the head of an agency in Hartford anymore, Stan. It's just that simple. It's not hard.
Mm-hmm.
You can't bring in people that don't know our community, don't know our families, don't know our kids, and are afraid to walk in our neighborhoods. What are you doing? What are you doing? Right? So it's time for Leslie to go. But I would like for her to do it in a dignified manner. Say, you know, I was here, I gave you my best, and I took it as far as I could take it.
Mm-hmm. Time to hand
with what I have.
Pass
and now I'm going, pass the baton, sister. Do it like a queen. You know what I'm saying? Do it like a queen. You know? Pass the baton. But pass the baton to the community. Don't be foolish like these other ones. I'm an elder. I'm giving you advice. I gave it to Luca. He didn't take it. You see where he's at. Right? Mm-hmm. So take my advice. Pass the baton to the community. You know, because we have someone that we would like to give a shot. Just like we gave you a shot, sister. We gave you a shot at the title. Now it's somebody else's shot. And I say that respectfully and with love.
Well, you know, you said something I thought was interesting in terms of a term, which was a title, you know, and a shot, like a prize fight. No one stays the champ.
That's right.
Forever. But the champ has a title. You get a shot in the ring. The stage is set. The champion wins, defends the title until such a time as someone better than the champ comes. And it always happens. There's always someone who can do a better job, more efficient job, picks up, takes the success from where it is to where it now can go. And it doesn't matter who it is. No one is that good that their successor doesn't roll up on them. It's the way of life.
And I will submit this, Stan. Leslie did a magnificent job in taking this district through that pandemic. She was a leader. She got us through. Whether somebody else could have did a better job or not, it doesn't matter. We made it through under her leadership, and we have to be thankful and grateful for that. But once again, it's time for her to go.
All right.
So I'm once again, Stan, let's go back to this union contract. You know, I would submit to the audience and to listeners and viewers, let's hear some feedback. I know there's some people out there that have a lot to say about this, and I would love to hear some feedback on how you feel about what the unions in Hartford are doing in terms of asking for these outrageous contracts that the city may not be able to sustain over a long period of time. We need people who can think like that can see, you know, that have a vision for Hartford. and not just think that you're going to come here and take and not give nothing back. You know what I'm saying? Think about what I said, family. To all our listeners and our viewers, think about what I said. 80% of all the Hartford Union members do not live in Hartford.
You know, this is something that we explore. My wife and I, we went up to Springfield, Connecticut. We interviewed one of the city council people there. His family's involved in Springfield politics forever and a day. And Springfield has a residency requirement. Springfield. That's not far, like 20 minutes. 15 if you're doing over 60.
Yep.
It's real close.
Yeah.
Real close.
Yep.
And there's a requirement. You have to live in the city. You have to live in the city. And so that is to suggest that, you know, there's pros and cons to the whole issue, but there can be difference, there can be change if the people of Hartford demand the change.
Well, we have that stand, but nobody follows it. We have that residency clause.
But following all of these things, implementing all of these things, they're like laws. They don't mean anything if they're not enforced. Okay, and the chief enforcers of law are the citizens. If we have people who represent us that are not moving forward the agenda on behalf of the constituents, then there's a problem. And that's what elections are for. Elections have consequences. Now, you know, we had a little primary election yesterday. But the big one's coming up in November. 90 days from now, there'll be another election where you will be able to elect, your senators, your congress people, stuff like that. But the one that matters most, because all politics is local, is the one coming up next November, where you will vote for your city council people, your mayor, and all those things. And now's the time to get involved in that process. Now's the time, not 90 days from November next year.
Right.
Now. Because as soon as November this year ends, it would be like cats fighting over it's going to get ugly. The long knives will come out. The day after the election, everyone's going to start making announcements. People will be running one another into the ground, this, that, and the third. People are going to fight to the death to win an opportunity to represent you. See, that's why I look at it, because I believe that the number one person involved in the whole political process is the constituent.
The individual.
The constituent. That's the only title that matters. None of the other ones matter because they all work for the constituent. And as you say, I think it's always imperative that elected officials are always and constantly reminded who they work for. Because it seems to me that on many occasions, they take leave and drink the poison water and believe that somehow we're their subjects.
Well, now that's the norm now, Stan. That's what I said earlier. That's the norm. The way it's supposed to work is the way you said it. The police and elected officials and bureaucrats, for that matter, they work for us.
All of them.
Right? They're supposed to. But the way it is now, I went to City Hall to get, a document, and the people there acted like they was mad that I was there. Really. Black and brown folk acting like they mad that we there to get stuff. So, and there's no accountability because their supervisors can't hold these people accountable because the mayor is the leader. The mayor's considered like a criminal, right? And the police chief. So they, how can the police chief ask his men to follow the law when he doesn't? You know what I mean? So we have a crisis. Our city, our government is completely collapsed. I'm thankful for this. These two council people that are asking for accountability and have this process be wide open, for the community. It should be done on Access TV. So citizens that want to listen in can listen. You know what I'm saying? Yes, those deliberations, because we want to know what these people are saying about us, you know, how they view us. And in these kind of meetings, all that stuff comes out. You know, all of that should be public, Stan. All of that should be public.
I agree. Caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Stan and Luis. Actually, Luis, me and you have never met before, but I do the co-host segment on Mondays, Jonathan Small. So it'd be nice at one point for me to at some point meet you.
Yes, sir, brother. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes. You said, well, you made some strong statements this morning. I just want to follow up on. You mentioned something about people being shot at wakes, and then you made some strong statements that you don't hear anything from different organizations, elected officials. You even called out the African American Alliance. If that's the case, that people are being shot at wakes, what are you expecting to come out of just people talking about some of these issues like that? And
An action plan. An action plan.
Okay.
Something that comes from the community, though. Not no government, police driven. Because, you know, we know what happens when they get involved. Right?
I will say that I will say this, that I won't mention who, because it would be inappropriate. I know that you don't believe it would be inappropriate, but because it was a private conversation, it would be inappropriate. But there is one city council person who I had a conversation with last week who was extremely concerned and wanted to know some ideas about involving community in the area at which you were talking about. I'll tell you when we get off air. But so there are some who
I'm
are
a little
concerned.
Confused, though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little confused.
You're confused that I won't mention the name.
No, I don't care about that. I'm a little confused because earlier, and once again, brother, correct me if I'm wrong, but earlier on in the conversation, you stated that nobody knew about this. And this brother's calling on the air kind of saying the same thing. But in fact, you've mentioned 3 or 4 people that already knew about this.
No. I said when you made mention about people shooting one another at wakes, that connected a whole series of dots.
Right.
Without that information, they're just people with ideas, but the ideas clearly are something that they are aware of. I didn't know.
I understand.
I didn't know until you mentioned it, I'm simply suggesting that I'm sure there are others. I had no idea that this was going on.
I stand by my comment. People knew. Before I made this comment on the air, people knew. And like I said,
right, I'm
questioning.
Why don't people like me know if all those other people know?
Well, and these are people that are in a position.
And as you said, there's no communication.
These are people that you're mentioning. They're in a position to shade the tree, like the saying goes.
Right.
Yes, and they haven't.
That's a problem.
That's
a problem.
That's more than a problem. That's a huge problem. It should be a huge concern for every citizen of our community.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why you're here, Lou. So we can know. Caller, are you still there?
Yes, I am. And let me just follow up on something, and then I'll ask you, Stan, a question. The fact that people don't know is a big problem because there was 2 homicides that took place this year. I knew the 2 people, and I knew by knowing the family members and knowing Reverend Henry Brown, I was able to get information that people who don't know the family members and don't know Reverend Henry Brown don't have access to. So not knowing things sometimes don't look at it as the worst case scenario. When you put the information out to people and it's not reaching people, then that's the real problem, in my opinion. You're putting out information now. And if nothing comes out of it, if the African American Alliance or other organizations now that know about it decide that they're not going to do anything beyond just listening to what you're saying, then that becomes a real critical problem. But just because somebody don't know about something for whatever particular reason is not always the worst case scenario. Communication does need to be better forwarded out to people than the way it exists today. But obviously, that's another scenario. The other side, Stan, I made a couple of comments that I feel, and I did, apologize. I put something on Facebook last week, inbox messaging, that if Senator Eric Coleman decides to run for mayor of Hartford, would he have a big impact on decreasing homicides and decreasing crimes in the city of Hartford? And you felt personally off of the ear, it wouldn't be any difference between other previous mayors, nor Senator or former Senator Eric Coleman. And I felt bad about putting that type of information on Facebook, and I did apologize to the people that I sent that message to, and I also sent it to Senator Eric Coleman. But sometimes a constructive challenge is not the worst case scenario. If I want to run for mayor of Hartford, and someone comes to me and say, can you decrease homicides? Can you decrease crime? Can you improve public safety? Maybe I shouldn't put that type of questions over, Facebook. But is that really the worst challenging question to ask a candidate that's running for mayor, putting him on the spot? What can he really be able to do to have an impact on decreasing crime and homicides? And my question would still be to you, Luis, and to you, Stan, again. If Senator Eric Coleman decides to run for mayor of Hartford next year, do you think, and he hasn't outlined his platform, hasn't even confirmed that he's going to run for mayor, but just your instinct, do you think he would have a big impact and some type of influence on decreasing homicides and decreasing crime in the city of Hartford?
Well, you and I have had this conversation for 20 years. I've run for mayor several times in Hartford, didn't win any time. My response remains the same. I think it's a very legitimate question. I think it's a question that absolutely should be asked. I think that anyone running for mayor needs to be asked the question. It's not so much the question, it's the answer to the question. And so mayors get themselves hooked up. The current mayor right now ran for office calling Hartford the murder capital of New England. He ran for office on that. I have postcards and placards upstairs in my bedroom on my nightstand, and Eric Coleman picture is right there with the mayor, talking about he was the right man for the city to help bring down crime. Now, any mayor that runs on that ticket is doomed as a deliverable, because those things are outside of his control. And so the mayor, whoever the mayor winds up being, needs to be working with the community who has the largest impact on those things. But they want to ride in like they're going to be saviors on a white horse. It's easy to make promises. There's a whole nother thing to deliver, and there's a whole nother thing to govern. So I don't believe it is within the mayor's purview, his power to stop crime or to increase crime. And as I've said over and over again on our program, and anytime I've talked to you, and I've said this publicly and I've said it at debates, the mayor can contribute to the atmosphere and the conditions that make the city a place where crime is less likely to happen. But being a sideline quarterback is always easier. But, I think there's things that could be done. But can the mayor be out of sheer presence of who he is? No, because he is not that person.
So my answer is a little different than Stan's, because I think that any mayor that has any brains at all and works with the community can definitely bring crime down. But what we have is individuals who think that they have like their private kingdom and we're their subjects and they can do and say whatever they want. And people like myself and perhaps even people like you and Stan don't do well with that kind of stuff. I don't do well with stuff like that. It makes me feel uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? So I think that a mayor who comes in and genuinely embraces the community and shares that the power, whatever power he feels that his office has, he shares that power with the community. then they're going to be not just successful, they're going to be great. But we don't have that. We don't have people with that mentality. You know what I'm saying? We have people who want to be in charge. And that's the white man's way. Because individualism is a white American concept. Black and indigenous people don't know what that is, brother. Because we work from a community base, right? So we keep bringing people from the outside. We have incredible individuals. I think Stan McCauley should be given a shot to be mayor. There's other people in the city, young people. You know, we have incredible young people in their 20s and 30s that would make incredible leaders for 1 or 2 terms. All these politicians, man, they get in office and they don't want to leave and they don't do nothing. And here's what I would submit to yesterday's election, the one coming in November, and any other election. We keep looking for the answers to our problems from the same people who created the problems. And they know what the end game looks like every time. So I'm not sure if voting is good for black and brown people. I'm just throwing that out there.
I think that's worthwhile throwing out.
We need to have a conversation about developing other ways that we can empower ourselves politically, economically, and socially that has nothing to do with the rules that have been set forth. I've said that. And you all need to look on Netflix and see who we are.
I saw that.
See the very beginnings of white supremacy in this country. And what Brother Lew Brown talked about the other day, white rage, the electoral college. You know what I'm saying? Because information is power. So we're playing in a game that we're never going to be successful in because we've had nothing to do with the creation of this game. I'm submitting to our communities all over the world that we create our own game. I've never been to nobody's table. I created my own table. And people have been mad about that ever since, but I've been fine. And I want to thank everybody out there, everybody that has supported me at any level. I'm grateful for your support because I stand for freedom.
Jonathan.
Yeah, well, Louise, you made a good. I think I have to agree with some of what you just said about creating your own system. I think it's not going to be so easily durable with the political system, but when you talk about the economic system, you talk about other factors. I think you can do many things with your own community. You don't have to wait for a general election to see who's going to get elected and then go by what they're trying to implement. I think even this upcoming November election, I mean, yesterday I went to vote. I really wasn't that excited or motivated. I mean, I barely knew the candidates that was even running for office for the Secretary of State, the Treasurer of the state of Connecticut. But I have to do my civic duty. I can't just take it and saying, voting doesn't mean anything. Voting doesn't have no impact. I mean, I can't go that far. But I think you could do a better job. We can do a better job at putting candidates in a position where they can have our best interests.
You know what's good about this conversation, Jonathan? That I planted a seed in your head, bro, and it started growing right away, man. Wait a little bit. It's gonna keep growing inside your head. Believe me.
Yeah. I would suggest that just because it's voting day, you don't have to. You don't have to vote. I don't know where this notion is that you have a civic duty to vote. I think that
That's the politician's statement. That's not ours.
Well, be that as it may, I think that, voting is how the political system in this country works. I think if you're talking about a national level, a national thing, who are we? Much of that was on a national
Well, I have to disagree with
level.
that, Stan. I have to disagree with that. Because
Well, I believe that all politics is local. We have the capacity to control the local political game.
I would change the wording.
To what?
I would say that all change is local.
All change
And now you taking
that's fine. All change is local, but all politics is local.
You're taking a lot of players out of the game with that.
With
you're
what?
Putting it right back in the community. When you say all change is local, you take the political element out of it.
You can't take the political. I purposely use politics because we're not talking about change. We're talking about the political apparatus that runs and makes decisions in the city. You were aptly stated, and you aptly stated and were correct when you said that we're not in control of the city. Our city council is in control of the city. We were run by a municipal oversight board.
Right now, Luke is. The city council is nothing.
Luke, bless his heart, as much as he would like to pretend he's in control, he's not.
Well, he has a public council stand.
No. He is the mayor. He's not the mayor of, as Eugenio Caro told me, he's not the mayor of a small town in South America. He's the mayor here. He didn't say this of Luke. He said this of the office. Mm-hmm. You may as well be the manager of a McDonald's. Mm-hmm. You don't make decisions. You carry out decisions. And so that to that degree, he's here for the moment. But he's not sitting up in his little tower over there on Elm Street making, sweeping changes and decisions. Like, he's just not. Okay, so, and no other mayor is. And whoever runs for mayor needs to, I've told everybody that's talked to me about running for mayor. I'm going to ask them this question. I'm going to ask them publicly in a setting of a forum. How will you, as the mayor of the city of Hartford, represent the interests of the people while your office demands that you represent the interests of the powers that be that run the system? I need an answer to that question. I think it's a legitimate question. And I think that the person that winds up being mayor has to be honest about that. Because if you don't start from that place of honesty, then we're not talking about real change. We're talking about superficial change in who's driving the bus. But the bus goes to the same place, the same time, every day, drops you off and picks you up at the same place. It's not an Uber. You get on, you sit down in the front of the bus or the back of the bus. But at the end of the day, you're a customer and you're paying them your money. All right? And you don't get to decide where you want to go. We want Uber drivers, not bus drivers. All right. So if you want to control your local government, then you have to elect people who are going to be responsive to you, that have an understanding of how the system works. Because if the money comes from the state to the city and it comes from the feds to the state, you can step out if you want until you decide you want to build a school on a little piece of land over there next to the Y. Then what happened? Right?
Money grabbing begins.
Right. Now they crush you. So you can only do but so much.
So here, for the listeners and for the viewers, this is what I would submit to this conversation. I'm asking for change. Stan is looking for answers from the same people who created the problem.
No. I'm not expecting answers from them.
As long as we go back and have that conversation about politics, that's what it is. We don't have to talk about that, Stan. That's the conversation that they want us to keep having, because it leads to the same thing. It's like definition of madness.
They don't want us having the conversation about
They want us
politics.
to have a particular conversation. Absolutely.
No.
Yes.
No, they want us to have a conversation that goes nowhere. The conversation I am evoking, the questions I am asking, are about how you take control of the apparatus and run it. That is not a conversation that they want you to have. They don't want you to be engaged in the political process. They love for you to sit around and talk about change. I've got hundreds of hours of conversations about change from the community, and they're still having those conversations.
May I submit?
Go on.
So what I'm saying to you, and I don't know if I'm making myself clear, because I have a hard time, putting these things together in my head, because a lot of times it's just a sentiment that something is wrong, something is not right, and I'm trying to figure it out, right? So what I'm saying to you is, Stan, that they want us to have the conversation that you're talking about because they're familiar with that mechanism. What I'm saying is, If we step away from that conversation and begin a whole new one that has nothing to do with this, then they can impose or control the narrative of this conversation. That's all I'm saying. We have to stop looking, anytime that we use those terms, especially political, right? Then we're having a conversation that they want us to have.
How can you bring about the type of change you talked about when we first came on the air? And when we're talking about voting, that is the political process. Now, if there's a different way that we could register our desire for individuals in those positions to do our jobs, to do the jobs that we want them to do. If we talk about change, so once we figure out what the change is going to be, how do you implement that change politically? If we're talking about changing, it's not a circular conversation. You can't talk about changing the type of cars we drive and then we never actually go and change the car. We talk about transportation. So we use our feet, we use bicycles, but we're not talking about changing transportation. We're talking about changing the car. So the car ultimately has to be what is changed. The political machinery of representation by 9 people on council is not a difficult thing to take control of. We've replaced the last people on council every election cycle.
So let me
but they don't seem to be getting better, do they?
No, because it's the same thing, Stan.
No, because
it's
we're not electing.
Madness.
No, we are not electing our representatives. We vote for the people that they give us. The change has to be in who runs.
Well, listen for a minute, brother. Think about change without any political influence. I know you don't know what that looks like.
I do know what that looks like. If we don't talk about political.
We've never done it. So nobody can know what it looked like. Right? But what I'm saying is the biggest changes in our community haven't been at the voting box. You know what I'm saying? And we have exercised our power. And I'll give you examples.
I want to hear an example because you started the program.
The first example is we force Luke to get rid of Narvez. They can spin it any way they want. She got another job, blah, blah, blah. We forced Luke to replace Narvez, the community.
And you don't consider that a political change.
And then, hold on. And then that was a community change. And I'll tell you why. Hold on. There was nothing happened at the voting booth, brother. That's what I'm saying.
The voting booth isn't the only place. That's the least place where political change happens. Political change is not voting. Political change is to move the direction of the body politic in a particular way. You wanted a change in a position that requires the political apparatus to make a decision. Their decision was influenced by the community. The community is the ultimate body politic because they are the constituents. They're the only real power within the political system. If the constituents don't exercise their power, nothing changes. That happens at the community level. But ultimately, the change you made was a political change. They were made by people elected or appointed to office, and those are political decisions. The mayor made a decision based on the will of his constituency because the constituency got their act together and demanded change. That's politics. That's politics, not voting for somebody, but voting is a part of the process. It's not the only vehicle that you have. Otherwise, Narvez would be still here.
She would still be here.
Right.
Well, once again, we cannot continue. I think being involved in the voting process or the political process, like some people call it, is counterproductive for black and brown folk. But since that's all we know, right? That's all we know. I often pose this kind of question to Christians, right? But this is all we know. Anything else that's introduced it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. I often say to Christians, what if you found out today that God was not real? They can't imagine that. They cannot imagine that, Stan.
Sure,
you understand?
They can imagine that.
Yeah,
I speak to you as a Christian.
Yes. Yes, brother, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. One thing I have to disagree with you, Luis, about, but I respect everything that you have said, and I agree with many things that you have said.
Thank you.
And I know, Stan, you don't like to look at other parts of the country. You always want to focus here in Hartford. But the political system has made a difference in other parts of the country. If you look at what the Cubans have done in Miami and South Florida, they've been able to tap into the political system and translate that into some areas of economic empowerment. You look at the black people, even in Atlanta, they've been able to utilize in the past the political system with Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, with the former mayor,
Maynard.
what's his name?
Maynard.
Maynard, yes, Maynard. They've been able to translate that airport project through a political empowerment that translated into economic empowerment. So I won't go along to say that the political structure or the political system can't work for people or it can't work for the community. It's just up until this point, for whatever particular reason, it hasn't really worked here in Hartford. You know, I can't figure that part out totally. And if you feel that, this is what I really want to find out, Luis. If you feel Mayor Lew Brown is not the right mayor because he's a white person or he's an outsider, does that mean that there is no white person, in your opinion, that can be beneficial to the black and brown people in Hartford? Because George Killerman, I think, Stan, you was even in favor of him when he was running for mayor, had his hands on many different solutions I thought and you thought would have been real effective for the city of Hartford. So to say, if you're saying Lew Brown or Mayor Brown is not the right person because he's an outsider, he's not connected to the city, and he happens to be white, maybe that might be part of the big problem. But if you're saying, and I'm going to find this out, if you're saying you don't think a white person could be effective at helping black and brown people in the city of Hartford if they become mayor and as a chief executive officer, because this person doesn't know our culture, he doesn't know our history, he's not really connected with us growing up, and he doesn't know much about our people, our traits and all that. I don't know if I agree with that 100%, but I just want to find out why you feel that way, and if that's why you feel about Mayor Lew Brown, because he's a white person and he's an outsider, that he can never really be beneficial for the black and brown people in Hartford. Thank you.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, thank you. Those are beautiful questions, and I'd like to respond to that. Brother, first of all, using Cubans as an example is, to me, is a terrible example because I'll tell you a story. When Teddy Roosevelt went to Cuba, he went to Cuba to make it part of the United States because he thought it was a white country. And when we found out Cuba was black, they quickly eliminated that plan. But Cuba was run by a small minority of whites. And in this country, in the United States, most Cubans are white. They identify with white supremacy. They support people like Trump and things like that. And so I don't think that was a good example. Now, in terms of Lew Brown, I don't think any white person that comes from out of town, hasn't lived in the community, has no roots in the community, doesn't know the community's problems or issues at any level, politically, socially, or economically, doesn't speak the language that the community speaks, because, every community has a certain language that they speak. And he is not connected at all, or anyone in his staff, right? Then I think that people like that, I think is racist. And I think that they're using their white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny to hear a black man talk about a white man being a good judge, because as I've often stated on this program, I think that one of the ways that we're going to defeat white supremacy and racism is to rewrite the Constitution, because it's a racist document and it considers us 3/5 of a human being. So any law that's based on that document, to me, is offensive. And I don't respect it. I have to follow it because I don't want to go to jail, right? But I have no respect for the Constitution of the United States or any law that's based on that, for the reasons that I stated before. So any representative of the court, whether they be black, indigenous, or white, is reinforcing, to me, white supremacy and racism because of that 3/5 statement. So that would be my response to you, brother.
Well. Again, I mean, Louis, I agree with some of the things that you said. I mean, it sounds like to me that you stated that you feel that Mayor Brown is a racist. You know, I don't want to put the words in your mouth.
Yeah, I did say that.
You did say that.
Would you want me? I would. Let me say it so we're clear about it. Lew Brown, in my opinion, based on his actions and his comments in this city, is a racist. Yes, absolutely. I stand by those comments. And he's a liar because he lied to me. You know, in my face, in front of back then Representative Angel Arce. And I think there was somebody else there, maybe Ed Vargas or someone. But yeah, he's a liar. And he's lied all the time, you know?
Well, people say a lot of politicians lie. I don't know Mayor Brown enough to call him a racist. I don't want to believe that, because that's a strong allegation that you make against someone. And if you feel you got proof and you got belief that Mayor Lew Brown is a racist, that's your belief. I mean, I don't know him enough.
Well, you stated something earlier, brother, that was interesting. You stated all the reasons why I would dislike him. He doesn't know our community. He's not. You said all these things, and those are all reasons for you to understand why I feel like he's a racist.
Yeah, but when you say a racist, it's like saying, okay, Mayor Brown doesn't like black people, or he doesn't like brown people. He got something.
He doesn't have our best interests in mind, brother.
Is that really politically, or is that just a human? I mean, when you say he doesn't have our best interest, would you say that could be like a political reason, or just he just doesn't care about black
well,
people?
for me, it's, you know, I don't understand when people say that, because when an individual doesn't have my best interest in mind, then he doesn't have my family's best interest in mind. So not only is it political, but it's also personal. You understand?
Right.
He's bringing in people from the outside to do the job that our people from, like I said earlier, we have an extremely talented pool of individuals in Hartford. And I don't see them in spaces that they should be in. I see people from the outside. City Hall is full of white people. We don't have that many white people in Hartford for them to have all them jobs. I'm asking for jobs for our people. The same thing with the schools. Okay. You know, we have a lady over here on Broad and Vernon, the principal of the high school over there. I've had dealings with that woman, and she's been extremely disrespectful and racist. And she has power over our families and our kids. And so we have to start looking at things from our perspective, brother, not from what people tell us to look at. I don't have anything personal against anyone. You understand? But I do believe that we have a capable pool here. And for any white person to think that they can come from out of town and rule over us is extremely racist.
Okay, but again, if you have a white person like Judge Killerman, who's from the city of Hartford, and he has our best interest, would you still feel he wouldn't be the right person because he's a white person? Or just
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because we have a capable pool. This city, brother, is 90% people of color. You can go by the statistics that City Hall gives you, or you can walk around the city and determine the amount of black and brown folk in this city. You know what I'm saying? And that alone, based on our history, brother, The plantation mentality. Okay? It is, and check this out. Check this out. Every major city in Connecticut, has a white mayor. And in our education system, all of our magnet schools have a white principal. Look that up.
But Luis, you can't look past the person's skin color for the best interest of the people, or you just think it's just not that there's no way that a white person.
It's not about being no way, brother. You're taking this. You're processing this incorrectly. It's about giving our people. We have people in Hartford, brother, who qualify for these jobs. Why are white people from out of town getting those positions? You know what a principal's job does for an individual, or even a teacher's job or a para? It changes your life completely, because now you have a steady income. Now you have health insurance. Now you have, you know what I'm saying? It changes your life. And so all these principals live out of town. So I read a funny story yesterday, so we can understand a little better. This guy gave a prostitute $100, and she turned around. This guy came to town to buy something expensive, so he gave a prostitute $100. She paid the guy at the hotel, who went to pay the baker who made his things, who went to pay somebody else, and then the money came back to the original person, and the guy didn't find what he wanted, and he took his money back. But everybody in the community touched that money. You understand? So when these principals and these other bureaucrats and city employees that don't live in Hartford, when they take all these resources, because money is just a resource, that's all it is, too. When they take this resource and they use it somewhere else, then our city declines. So on a lot of different levels, brother, I'm talking about, it's not that I don't like white people. My wife is half Ukrainian. You understand? My brothers, my half brothers, are half Sicilian. You understand? So I have white blood. You know what I'm saying? It's not that. We have to learn. We can't act like white people and act like we don't know what equity is. And when our people are not employed and they are qualified in our city, then we lose out on so many levels, man. Imagine our little black and brown kids, man, never seen a black principal or a brown principal. You know what I'm saying? What does that do to their self-esteem? So on a lot of different levels, brother, on a lot of different, and it's about empowering ourselves in our community. That's what I'm talking about.
Luis, when I went to school, it's not now. I saw a black principal. I saw black teachers. I saw black principals and black teachers in the 80s when I'm graduating from high school. So if things have changed so dramatically today that we don't have any black principals, we don't have any black superintendents, we don't have any black teachers, we don't have people in certain positions in the city of Hartford that can run administrations that's black and brown. I can't disagree with the statistical data because I don't have all of the facts in front of me. Would it make a difference? Of course it would make a difference when you see people that look like you that you can identify with, and it would have an impact. Would a residency requirement stand that you was mentioning earlier, would that play a role in having more black people hired in the city or brown people hired in the city? Yes, I think in some areas it clearly would be. But again, I mean, the root of our problems, I don't think it's white people that's destroying our psyche or that's destroying us as a people. I mean, I don't know what exactly is it, but I just don't think it's just that alone. If that is even the case, you may think it's a little surprising to hear a black person like myself speak like this. Like I'm trying, you're not putting words in my mouth. I'm speaking on behalf of white people. That's not what I'm doing. But I'm just trying to get some understanding, talking to you where you're coming from, and then you can find out where I am coming from. And the only thing, Stan, you've been kind of silent on some of these issues that Luis and I have been discussing. And I don't want to put you on the spot, with your network and everything, but it would be interesting to find out, do you think the race and do you think a white person can't come into the city as mayor and chief executive officer and really make a difference and be for the behalf of the people? Again, I don't want to put you in the corner and say, is Mayor Brown racist and saying what Luis just said? Because that's a strong statement, calling the mayor of the city of Hartford or calling anybody a racist. But if you feel you got your facts in order and you can back that statement up, Luis, then I can't say your facts is not coming across. I don't know all of your facts by making that statement. But just want to hear what you have to say, Stan, and I think I'll run. I'm going to listen to your program. Thank you.
Well, before Stan comes on, brother, I just want you to know that I respect your viewpoint. Mm-hmm. It's like you said, I may not agree with some or many of the things that you said, but in any event, I do feel like you have a right to express that, and I welcome that, so thank you.
Okay.
To your question about I'm on record as calling him a colonizer. I think he's colonizing the city, and he's not alone. I think there's an effort underway to colonize urban America, and I think that he's part of that effort. Can somebody with white skin provide leadership? Absolutely. Just like black folk can provide leadership, or somebody from Native American or Asian or people that speak Spanish or speak Lithuanian. It doesn't. Human beings are human beings. And so I'm not one that necessarily buys into the false construct of things being all things race. You have a tendency to find what you look for, good or bad in all people. I think that people have different points of view. I think that people have different interests. I would find it shocking for someone in a city like Hartford, with the political dynamics that we have here in this city, where we actually had the 2-2-2 rule, 2 Spanish speaking, 2 white and 2 black on city council in the Democratic Party.
Another white construct.
But these are all constructs, and they're constructs to maintain power for the power elite. Politics is about power and the exercise thereof. And the people who are in power will do whatever they can to keep it. And the ones that don't have any power will do most things that they can to attain it. And so it's just people being people. All right. And I think it's naive at best, foolish at worst, to think that somebody who is white is going to get elected and then do everything for everybody except white people. When Spanish people had an opportunity to be in office, City Hall started speaking Spanish. When black folks was in office, City Hall turned chocolate brown. I mean, this is what happens in a political struggle. And Hartford is no different than any other city in America, in that there will always be a fight for political dominance and political power, and it's very difficult to arrest or take that power from a group who has a marked advantage and many years at the helm, which would be white folks. So what you have is a power issue more than you have a race issue. Race works very well to maintain it, and we are witting participants in the process. If I tell you to stay home and wear a mask, otherwise you'll die, and you do so, even if wearing a mask or not is not an issue, you're helping me keep you under control. Whatever mechanism it takes to keep the people under control is usually what they do when they're in power. So I see it more as a power struggle than anything else. I believe that in the system, the way it is set up now, barring some sort of outside change is going to come from I don't know how many decades of sitting around talking. The system that is in place right now presents opportunities for anybody that sees fit to organize, galvanize, people together and then exercise your right and ability to express the changes that you want, and you will see them manifest. It's happened time and time and time and time again. Now, people could call it whatever they want. They want change. They get together with groups of people. They go down, and they use the very system that supposedly can't work to bring about the change they want. The system is the system. The system doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care. It's just a system. Your car is a system. It's a mechanical machine. It's a mechanical system. It doesn't care what color the driver is. You get in it, you turn the key. If it runs and you can get it in motion, it'll go in whatever direction you point it. It's indifferent to who the drivers are. It's just a system. And I think sometimes people believe that their moral center of whatever it is that they're positioning themselves in is so great that their contribution to a particular system will somehow change it for the good of all. You know, black people ruled the planet for a long time. They're not ruling it right now. The pendulum swings, it comes back, it comes forth. The oppressed become the oppressors, and the oppressors become the oppressed. It is the cycle of things. All right, so as long as human beings are here, there are going to be times when folk are in power, and then there'll be times when people are out of power, until such time as the society collapses, as has happened with every single society on the planet. Sooner or later, they all collapse because they're systems of men. They're systems of human beings. All right? As oppressive as things are on the planet, you know, women can talk all they want. You know, right now, men are dominant on the planet. Men may acquiesce and give women some power here and there, but generally speaking, men run things. Now, women can get together and have little conferences and convocations and talk about coming up with new systems to overtake men. And, you know, everyone does those things because they don't like the way things are. But creating the dynamic for those changes to just flip so that you can see the effects thereof, I don't see that as a practical way to deal with problems that we're dealing with, like right now. You know, long term perhaps, but the right now, Do I think that Mayor Bronin is the best thing for the city of Hartford? No. That's why I ran against him. That's why I supported Pedro Segarra, not Judge Killian. All right. You know, I just believe that could he have done a better job? He has all the tools. He has the intellectual capacity. He has the connections. He has access to resources. But he's not doing a better job for the people who live here because that's not his purpose for being here. So anyone that's shocked and awed at what's happening with the mayor, you know, my biggest question, I like Eric. I'm not an anti-Eric person. I'm not a pro-Eric person. I'm not pro nobody until I hear a whole lot from a whole lot of people who say they want to run. I need to have some questions answered publicly, not in private, publicly in front of a camera, in front of people. But, you know, my biggest question to anybody that's all the people running right now, every single person is talking about running. All of them supported Lew Brown. Not one of them running didn't support Lew Brown. So my question to them is, and when did you wake up and see that Lew Brown is the same man now as he was when he ran? That's one question I want to ask all of them.
When they started listening to our show, Stan.
Because I'm telling people this from the jump.
So I will submit this in terms of your comments. There have been many studies done that show that all systems in this country, okay, give the advantage to the whites because they created
Absolutely.
These systems.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just be clear about that. All systems.
Yeah, that's a given.
Mm-hmm.
That's a given. I didn't say anything to challenge that. I said just a system.
Right.
Right.
But in this country, though, the way that it's been designed and that it works,
mm-hmm.
you know, it was made to give them the advantage at every turn.
Right.
And so for me,
and more power to them. If I was going to design a system, I would design a system to advantage me.
no,
And the folk that I am endeared to.
I wouldn't. We don't think like that. I would design a system to benefit everybody. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that, and that's always a good place to be.
Absolutely.
But you better have some guards somewhere to make sure that when the enemy comes running, you don't open the gate and give them a front seat, because that's the system. Systems like that work when everybody involved, including the quote unquote opposition to your point of view and way of life, is working with you. But in the world we live, the opposition will do everything they can to stop you. So your system of inclusion can only go so far, because if you allow them to, they will supplant you and you'll be on the outside looking in. That's just that's the nature of things. I know that you would be more protective of the systems you put in place, because you fight for your people now.
Yes, but I don't. Here's the other thing, Stan, that, you know, in terms of Eric, and I said this before, Eric running for mayor is exactly the same thing that Luke did. Eric doesn't live in Hartford. Eric doesn't know the issues of Hartford. Eric reads about the issues in the paper. Eric is not in the community. I never seen Eric on New Britain Avenue. I never seen him on Broad Street. I never seen him on Park Street. I never seen him on Barber Street. I never seen him, you know, on Nelson Street. So what is he bringing? So what I'm saying to all our listeners and to our viewers is that, once again, we are in the age of the Great Awakening. Please make sure that if you do vote, when you cast your vote, you're casting a vote for folks who have the community's interest in mind, not their political party. Eric has been part of that political process for 30 years now. And people like Eric really have never embraced our communities. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be careful. We cannot necessarily, I would vote for a white person that grew up in Hartford and that had interest in Hartford. You know, their kids went to school in Hartford. They grew up with our kids. They went down to the Y or down to Keeney Park or Coast Park to play ball. You know what I'm saying? I would vote for, because they grew up with us. They know our issues. They're facing the same stuff. But from people to come from the outside and think that they can rule over black and brown, because that's what it is. When the city's 90% is black and brown folk, that's what it is. It's the black and brown city. So for any white person from out of our city to think that they can come and run for any position is a colonialist mentality, brother. They think that they have to save us from ourselves because we don't know what to do. We're not competent. We're not intelligent. Here's two terms that I want to share with the viewers and listeners today. And this is something you have to watch out for when you go to job interviews and things like that. Infantilizing. Treating black and brown folk like children, like we're not adults. Okay, and the other one is something that we go through every day, every moment of the day. Racial battle fatigue. Racial battle fatigue. Something that black and brown folk go through every day, every single day. They don't even know. And it's so perverse. And it creates all kinds of stress and trauma. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happens, brother, when we have these colonizers come into our midst. Because they come in as invaders and then stay as occupiers. It's like some of these police forces. You watch some of these crimes that these police are committing, and then you know, people defend them, you know. So we have to be very careful. We have to use our head in how we vote and how, you know, the kind of people we want. I think that the police chief and the superintendent and even the fire chief to a certain degree, the community should have a large say in who they are. because they work with us, and they should be in the street at least once a week.
They work for us.
They should be in the street at least once a week, walking around, talking to regular people, asking them questions. You know, they don't do that. They're afraid. Here's the other thing. For the mayor and for the superintendent, when I work for the school system, I can go to any neighborhood and knock on any door in the city. And the people that were supposed to be the attendance workers refused to go out and check on our kids and see why they weren't coming to school. The police department right now doesn't have many officers that can come out into our community and engage in a healthy and in a productive manner. I've often talked about Steve Austin. I don't know why he's not higher up in the ranks.
Yeah, Steve's a good man.
He's a brother that can quell a lot of stuff in the North End with his presence. And he doesn't need the whole police force. He can go down there with one or two officers and put an end to whatever's going on just by talking to people. Because people respect him. And he's one of the few officers that I can say trust, that people in the community trust. What is Jason Thody doing with Steve Austin? How is he using him? Is he using Steve to the best of his abilities? Is he using Steve's skill set at a maximum? And other officers that have that kind of connection with the citizens. So, you know, it all goes back to the same thing. We have to be careful about who we elect. And like I said, these positions, the community should have a say in who it is. If you're educating my child, I should know who you are. And you should be comfortable in having a conversation with me. And even coming to my house. So we have, our city on a lot of levels, and Stan is absolutely correct when he says this all the time, and I completely agree. You know, the citizens are supposed to be in charge, but we gave that authority and that responsibility to these politicians and these bureaucrats, and that's why we are where we are.
All right. Take a short break. We'll be right back. Morning Talk on the phone joining us this morning. We had Jonathan Small. We're not done. We got plenty of. We still got more talk left. It's Morning Talk. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Independent thinkers are Puerto Rican, Mexican, Peruvian, Indian, Bosnian, Italian, Irish, Jamaican, African American, European, straight, gay, Nigerian, transgender, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, short, tall, skinny, rich, poor, happy, sad. Some of us hold a PhD and others a GED. And though we may be Democrats, Republicans, or members of the Working Families Party, we all have escaped the the plantation of party politics and become independent thinkers, because we as individuals are more than a party. You see, independent thinkers come from all walks of life. And the one thing we all have in common is that we love, live, laugh, and learn in the city of Hartford. We are the constituents, and the government of Hartford belongs to us. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I'm an independent thinker, and I approve this message because it's time to stop towing the party line and vote for a candidate you can trust. You too can escape the plantation of party politics if you have the courage to free your political mind.
Hi, my name is Marisha Garcia. I am from Brazil. I help HPU. I help families de Universidade de Harvard Community. Estou muito feliz em participar. É muito importante o engajamento deles padres e madres nas escolas de Hartford com seus ninhos, my children. I love helping family e HPU. Thank you. Gracias. Obrigado.
So my name is Nelky Maldonado.
My name is Ramon El Arroyo.
And we know that Hartford Parent University provides good services and resources to parents in our communities, which are greatly needed because a lot of times our parents, they don't know where to go, how to get information, and being part of this program is essential to them in being successful in their children's education.
And I think that parents should get involved in their kids' education because it's very important. Education is, I always believe, is a success in life. If you got a good education, you can be very successful.
So we encourage our parents to please come join the program, ask lots of questions, and I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed.
I don't know if you all had an opportunity to go down to the Taste of the Caribbean and Jerk Festival, but that was this weekend just past. It was really nice. Check it out. You can catch it on accesstv.org. Jesse Ewert with the Chatted Up crew down there asking questions. Last night, Chatted Up was down at the West Indian Social Club for the Jamaican night. So that'll be coming on a little bit later on today. So check it out. All right. Always something good happening. Always something creative happening here at accesstv.org. We return now. It's Morning Talk. If you have a comment, something you'd like to express, in terms of points of view. You can always drop your comments in the chat section, and we will we can read your comments over the air. Also, right here, Morning Talk at accesstv.org. If you'd like to get on the call list, send me your phone number. I'll call you. Send me your phone number. Say, I'd like to be on the Morning Talk. That way I'll know to call you. And then I'll call you and we'll get you hooked up so that you can be pre-screened. Pre-screened. No anonymous posts, no anonymous calls. So I know who you are. Own what you say. All right. So if you want to talk, I have no problem talking to you. We'll give you access, and you say what's on your mind. That's what we do here. Morning Talk. A closer look at the appointments and of key leadership positions within Hartford will reveal he is not a good choice. Example: police chief. That's one of the viewers.
Submit something real quick in terms of education.
Is your mic on?
I believe so. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
All right.
So anyway, I just wanted to submit that also, and this happened in New Britain, and I should have mentioned this earlier, but districts, especially districts in communities of color, are using metrics that make communities of color look bad, like chronic absenteeism. You know what I'm saying? So we have to, and the reason that they do that is because they can ask for funding. So a lot of the information that they're using is skewed and making our communities, our families, our children look bad. You know what I'm saying? So we need responsible reporting, Stan, from these folks. And so the district in Hartford and the district in New Britain, I worked in both, and they're both guilty of that. And so studies have shown now that all districts of color across the nation are guilty of this. They're using metrics that make our communities look bad.
Well, of course, that is nothing new. You know, I think part of the bureaucracy is, you know, its desire to stay alive. And so, you know, all of these, most of the systems are corrupt, almost beyond repair. And the systems use people up. You know, people are the fuel that keeps the corrupt system going. And instead of being about serving the people, it becomes keeping the system alive. So, you know, crime is used as a fundraising mechanism during congressional races so that, you know, more monies come in. Murders are up. That means we need more money. We need more federal dollars. And, you know, education numbers aren't where they should be. So next thing you know, you have you got monies coming in to help fight absenteeism, to help fight dyslexia, whatever it is that you can get money for. They find a way to get the monies to come in. And, you know, you throw some cheese to a little community group, you know, 300,000 here, 600,000 there. And, you know, 13 million over in this little department, 14 million over there. I'm making up the million numbers. But they're up there.
Of course.
So if the police department gets money, it's hard to just funnel that money to them to fight crime, but not give it to some community groups. Then once the community groups take the money, they're compromised. They're compromised because they now are on the dole, and
they're on the payroll.
They're on the payroll, and they need the money to stay alive. They need they need the money to survive. They have,
and so so that's a trick.
Yeah.
So, the other day I had Brother Dean Jones at my house.
How's he
Dean
doing?
is doing great. He just resigned.
Yeah,
from
I was going to say
Compass.
he's liberated, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was liberated from Compass. But he's doing really good.
Self-liberated.
Self-liberated,
Right.
absolutely. And so he's doing really good. But I said to them, I said, Dean, one time I was invited over this guy's house. He wanted me to work with him, and he had another dude with him. And I said, brother, I'm going to decline your offer to work with you because I'm uncomfortable with working with community organizations now because they have a habit of parading our children in front of funders like slaves. And I said, I'm very uncomfortable with that. I said, Dean, I want you to think, and this is when I talk about creating our own language and creating our own systems. I said, Dean, I want you to think about this. I want you to put together a proposal, but it's going to be different. You're going to ask funders, why should you take their money? You're not going to ask them for money. You're going to ask them why. But in your proposal, you're going to say that they cannot be associated with any racist organizations or politicians. They had to have made some contribution to advance, our community at some level. So now you're going to put them on their heels to make sure that they qualify to work in our community with our families and our children. We're not just going to take money from anybody, Stan. We got to draw the line somewhere, and we got to have some type of expectation for ourselves.
Well, I think that's very important, and I think that's
an idea that's ahead of its time.
That's a good way to put it. That's a better way to put it than I was going to say. I was trying to find the right word. It's an idea that's ahead of its time. That's a great way to put it. Because it's going to obviously limit, but then one has to ask oneself, why am I doing the work? Am I doing the work because there's a need? And if there's a need, then there will always be a means and a way. If you help one person because there's a need, that's better than helping nobody. See, you can only do what you can with what you have.
Yes.
So if it's the need is driven, then it's because of the kids or because of the person that has this hungry or the person that needs a new house, whatever it is. You do what you can. When it goes beyond the need and becomes just a revenue stream, that's when folks start getting into trouble. So if you do 2 or 3 people, then the 3 or 4 people believe in what it is you're doing. They'll contribute to it. And before long, you'll have all the resources that you need to do the job at hand.
Exactly.
You don't never want to be in a position where they got you. Because once they have you, if your budget is $50,000 a year, that's an unreasonable budget. I understand that. But for the sake of the discussion, if you have a $50,000 a year budget, you know how much they're going to give you? 30. Even if they want to keep you going and support you, they give you 30. Then you have to beg because, of course, you got to keep your doors open.
And parade you and your children
right
in front of the funders like it's a slave auction.
Right. And then they'll come across with, we like what you're doing. We've supported you in the past. We're going to support you now. I scrape together like 10 grand. So that should hold you over for a little while, right? Mm-hmm. Now, and of course, they know that you need the 50.
It's insulting.
Right, and they'll milk you out until finally the last day for you to be able to make payroll has come and passed, and then miraculously they got the rest of the money that you need, and you're going to make it to the end of the year, and we're going to do all we can to make sure you get this kind of funding next year. And it starts all over again.
You need some chucking and jiving,
and it starts all over again.
You need some dancing. You need all of that, Stan. And I refuse. I refuse to allow my son
get you a straw hat
to participate in any nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And so at so many levels, man. Like I was saying earlier, at so many levels, I want to represent my community, my families, and our children in a way that there's equity and there is done in an organic way, like we do. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be very careful, once again, family, about watch your vote. If you do vote, be careful who you vote for. So I don't think that's our way out. Personally, I don't think that's our way out. I think that by creating groups that force politicians to move in the direction that we want them to is the way to go. And we've seen that happen. Like I said earlier, the biggest change has not been at the voting booth. You know, we forced Luke to take, he wanted Tim Sullivan. We forced him to take Leslie. It was a political statement. At that time, she was the best. Yeah. But now she's run a course. We've done other things. Yeah. But way back when they built the amphitheater, I got together with the Sólidos, the Latin Kings, 20 Love, Dana Wright. These people built the amphitheater from workers from out of Connecticut. And they wanted to bring in people to run the facility from people that didn't live in Hartford. And we got together, all the gangs got together, and Dana and I talked to them about how we can fight that. And we forced the builders, the state, and the city to do more than to comply. By the time we finished with them, it was 80% people of color and 80% citizens of Hartford that were going to work in the amphitheater. So we've done things here. You know what I'm saying? We had the governor. We refused to take his call. The commissioner of the state police. We refused his call. Dana finally spoke to Elizabeth Horton-Sheff. But we got it done. A lot of things. We've gotten a lot of things done in this city.
Those I would consider political.
They're political, right, but they're community driven.
All politics is local, which means all politics is community.
And all change is local, is what I say.
It's all community driven.
Yes.
Right. So
we have many.
Voting is, you know what? My analogy is, you're on a ship, it's taking on water, and we got to get all the passengers off. Each life raft is a different component of the means by which we save the whole. It's not just going to be one. It's all of them working together. And if we don't use all of the life rafts, people are going to be left behind and die. So voting is just like one of those elements. It's just one. You still need the idea people, you need the activists, you need the community organizers, you need the folks to disseminate information.
Yep.
You need the press, you need the papers, you need all of the different social organizations. It's a community effort.
You forgot to mention one of the most important parts that we need. The morning talk show.
Morning talk.
That's right. Well, because we impart good information here, man.
Right. That's a given.
So check this out, Stan. Here's another idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I would submit to our listeners and to our viewers that the way that we should run politics in Hartford is that we interview each individual individually from their birth all the way to where they're at now, because they're going to be doing stuff for us, right? So we have a right to know.
Now, when you say we interview them, we
find out about where they went to school, what they did,
like FBI,
the political, exactly, a very thorough check. And at the end, we ask this question. This is the question that every community should ask of every person that's considering any kind of public office.
Absolutely.
Why is it a benefit to this community to elect you for this position?
That's a great question.
And you have to say exactly why. Because we're going to question, like Eric, like you said earlier, that was an incredible question, Stan. That was a very profound question. What makes Luke different today than when you supported him? What's the difference? That's a great question.
Right, but
because it was a political move on his part. And see, here's the thing. When Eric made that move to support Luke, he has to be able to account to the community. How did that help the community? Obviously, it helped you. There's no question about that. Helping Luke, supporting Luke helped you, Eric, because you helped the party. You were loyal to the party.
Has that loyalty waned?
Once again, it doesn't matter if it waned. For now, I just want to know how you supporting Luke at that time because we already clearly and obviously stated that it helped him, right? I want to know how Eric Coleman's supporter Luke Brown helped the Hartford community.
That's a fair question.
Of course it is.
Every single question. This is thus saith Stan, not necessarily the truth. Just so it's on the public record, so everybody, this is just J. Stan McCauley. I don't speak for nobody else. I believe that any question that any constituent has is a fair question. They're all fair questions. That doesn't demand that you have to answer. But any question that any constituent asks of an elected official is a fair question. And I think it's in the best interest of the elected official to just answer the question. Or you could say that's a private question. I don't feel it's that
I'm not comfortable with that question.
Not comfortable with that question. Because some questions are nobody's business. But every question a constituent asks is fair. Because if you get elected to certain positions or you get appointed to certain positions, there are levels of government that ask questions of you that are beyond personal.
Of course.
And you have to answer them.
Yes.
You can't get certain clearances. You can't go into certain places. Mm-hmm. And that's the government. So we, as constituents, I think, because you are volunteering for this job. You're volunteering to represent us. And no one's making you run. Mm. You volunteer to represent us. Mm-hmm. Then when they get in there, they want to act like somehow because we ask a question, we done lost our mind. Right. That's I take great umbrage at that.
Well, Stan, I think that, once again, we are in the age of the Great Awakening. We don't have to move in ignorance anymore. Every step that we take forward should be done in intelligence. And when you vote, make sure that you vote for individuals that are running for office that have the community's best interest in mind, not their parties. And if we do that, I think we can use the voting process in a safe way. But right now, I submit to all our listeners and viewers that the political process is not the right way for black and brown folk. The way that it's designed now, we have to design something else.
Need some
and
change.
I'm open to any suggestions, comments, recommendations. Whether you agree with me or not, we welcome all, because that's how we grow. Family, I want to give a huge shout out to a brother, Brian Evans from the Peace Builders. He lost his son. Brian, my condolences to you and your family, brother. You are a cacique in our community. You've done great work, and we're very proud of you, and we support you, and we stand by you. Peace, King. And to the rest of our family, let's have a great rest of the week. Let's keep building, let's keep growing, and let's keep moving forward in intelligence. Thank you so much.
All right, my friends, that's it. Our time together has come to an end. Same thing happens every time we're on the air. You all stick and stay. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all once again. And of course, we're here every morning, 8 o'clock. Tune in, check it out. Something's here. All right, so until next time, thank you, sir. Good to see you,
brother. Yes, sir, all the time, man.
And
incredible show today, Stan. Thank you, man.
We'll be back. We'll be back. Don't. Okay. Ciao, ciao.